Hello and welcome to the Phoenix 5 Info Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Vince Lewis with the Public Affairs Bureau of Phoenix Police. And welcome back, co-host, PIO Sgt. Rob Scherer.
Back again, glad to be here.
Thanks. Well, it's getting into these summer months of the year. It's May, actually.
Starts to get warm.
Yeah. So that presents a particular interesting dynamic for those of us who live, work, and play in Arizona, specifically Phoenix.
Yes.
And specifically police officers who wear very dark clothing and heavy equipment as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So oftentimes we need to be reminded about the obvious things, the things that should be obvious is that it's hot. You gotta hydrate. You gotta do things to keep yourself cool in this environment, but what we rely on is a safety unit and those representatives. So recently promoted and moved along from the safety unit, but a long time standing member of that unit, still as smart as he was of the day when he left. I want to welcome our guest, Sergeant Dave Jordan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
What do you do currently?
So currently I'm the sergeant over our specialty vehicles and dive team. So we do all the big trucks that you see driving around, the armor, any specialty type equipment, and then all of the dive team operations for the city.
Okay, so dive is not like swim and dive.
No, it's we do search and recovery operations. We don't do any rescue missions. So we're doing searches for evidence, recovering vehicles, and deceased people from the waterways within the city of Phoenix and outward. We do a lot for the outside agencies as well.
Okay, because it's kind of a unique, specialized skill and resource that you provide that not every police agency has access to.
Yeah, we're slotted for 16 guys and gals, but currently there's 11 members to the police department dive team. It depends on who you talk to, but there's about 3 to 4 different dive teams throughout the valley and the state, and we respond we've been as far as Chino Valley this past year, and so we do a lot of things for the outside agencies as well, for Glendale and Goodyear and Mesa and all those types.
Do you yourself dive?
So I've been a member of the dive team. January will be my 20th year.
Wow.
So I've done it since I was an officer, and so I've been doing it for a really long time, and had some really good experiences, and now it's time for the guys to do those things, and I just get to supervise.
So was this like a goal, long time coming kind of deal to move to this spot for you?
Yeah, for sure. Good. For sure. That's one of the nice things about working for the department is there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of different opportunities that you don't have with some of the smaller agencies, and this is one of those things.
Awesome. We did a profile on your unit. We've done a few opportunities where we've actually gone to dive along with you, gone underwater. We've got to put those little short vignettes on our social media page. But you just came hot off a shoot with Adolfo, who's in our crew, and you guys were covering safety surrounding the canals and the waterways within urban Phoenix. Is that right?
Yeah, and so what people don't realize, and a lot of people, they talk about, well, why does Phoenix have a dive team? Well, we respond to almost 50 calls a year for different recoveries. A lot of those are in the canals and the different waterways within the city, not just the lakes and the rivers, but there's a lot of water, and a lot of people don't understand the challenges and the difficulties associated with the water and the danger associated with it, especially when it starts to get hot and people want to cool off, and it can get pretty dangerous pretty quick.
That's not the place to do it.
Right, yeah. There's public pools that are open and available during the summer. The canal and the city ponds are definitely not the place that you want to be trying to cool off in the summertime.
So specifically why? Tell me what most people don't see underneath the surface of these canalways.
So with the canal specifically, they're moving water. They're all gravity fed with the gates that you see typically towards the intersections, and so there's a lot of water that's being moved through those areas in the summertime because it's used for irrigation. And so with the visibility being limited, what you can't see is the little offshoots where it's going into different areas to irrigate people's property, so that creates a suction. And then also because they're open, there's no fences that close them off. There's all kinds of debris that's inside those canals that you can get hung up on and cause some issues for you as well.
So what's just specific to this unit? Do you guys train in a canal? Do you guys go in there and to where you guys are used to it once you guys get down in recovering something?
So the guys on our current cycle, we just started training 2 new guys, are getting around 160 hours of training just to become the basic public safety diver. That includes everything from full face masks to dry suits to surface supplied air, meaning they don't carry their air with them. We pump it from the surface down to them. But they're fully encapsulated, so when they're in the water's not touching them to help protect them while they're under the water.
And you're looking around in zero or near zero visibility waters for items that you may not, obviously you can't visually see, but you're feeling. And these items are helping to solve some pretty serious cases, right?
Yeah, so most of the things that we're involved in are in connection with our Violence Crime Bureau. So, at a minimum, robberies and aggravated assaults, but typically it's results of some sort of homicide. And when you say limited visibility, I like to tell people, go in your bathroom and put a towel underneath the door, turn the lights off, and then now try to find a penny on the ground. And that's basically what the guys are doing.
Visibility.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
Zero.
It's very tedious work because you're literally searching the bottom of the canal by hand the entire way across.
And you're probably finding things unrelated to cases, right? What's the most interesting thing you've found unrelated to a case?
We've found a lot of things that are probably not appropriate for
Not to
this.
say.
Yeah,
So keep it under, where it's appropriate for the current setting.
There are some of those things, but it's not uncommon to go and be looking for a gun and find 3 knives and 2 guns and 5 cell phones and a computer and a fishing rod and really anything that anyone can throw into the canal or the ponds. We're going to find it, so it's there.
Our office gets asked a lot. Just about every time a car ends up into a canal, we get asked about it. And obviously Phoenix was built on the canal system from the ancient people who lived here before we did. The canals have been a long-standing feature within our city. But when a car enters into a canal, it's not something that you just reach in and you grab. There's a process to it, right? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we work hand in hand with our partners with the tow companies as well, not only to make sure that their employees and our employees are safe trying to deal and negotiate the canals, but we also work with the actual owners of the canals, either Roosevelt Irrigation District, SRP or CAP, making sure that there's no additional damage done to the canals as we remove these vehicles from the canals. So there's a process to it. Depends on how deep the water is, where the car is at. Is it upside down? Is it on its side? Is it right side up? And then the guys go through a checklist, and then we get in there and get them hooked up and get them pulled out.
Because we don't know if there's anybody in there, right?
Yeah, so typically it depends. An initial response to a vehicle in the canal, the fire department would come out, because the fire department is our swiftwater rescue portion of the city, and they would attempt to try to locate and see if there's anyone inside. Fortunately, most times it's someone swims out of the car and is on the dock or on the shore, and that's how we find out about the car as well. And then other times we don't know, and then we're putting people in the water to try to get a visual if there's someone inside the car still, and then be able to recover that person along with the car.
Interesting. Well, we're talking with Sergeant Dave Jordan from the Special Vehicles Unit, but you came from safety, and there's a new sergeant that you're helping to train and to help orient to what the safety is for those first responders. But I remember when you and I would work on a large events, you'd provide a briefing ahead of time for the people who are on the incident management team for these large events to stay mindful of things. Okay, so we're going into the summer months. What advice do you have for the public safety first responders, basically anybody in the community, to deal with our heat?
Try to stay out of it as best you can. Air conditioning is your friend here in Arizona. The city and the state are both putting out different programs associated with cool places to go. But then if you have to be outside, then hydration is the key to it. And it's not the day of, it's the day before. So the recommendation is 8 ounces of water, or 8 glasses, or 8 ounces of water, or 8 ounces of water a day. So 64 ounces of water, so 2 cups from QT, not with soda, with just water. But also remembering that things like soda and alcohol are going to dehydrate you and aren't the best options during this time of year if you're not drinking that much water.
Right. Inevitably, we're going to have officers that succumb to some element of heat, whether they start to get heat exhaustion or whatever. Does your unit play, or safety unit, does safety unit play into some of the reactionary elements of that, like on how we're gonna talk to them about water, we're gonna try to learn things, like where does the safety unit come into play in some of that?
So the safety unit tries to be proactive in its approach. Unfortunately, once it becomes that nature, then that becomes a fire department response and a medical response. Hopefully, it's not that bad. Good or bad.
Right.
With the officers, the problem is sometimes we have to tell them to stop because they're out there trying to do the best they can and work. And really the only difference between a citizen and an officer being out in the heat is they're wearing a vest, and that creates a lot of heat as well that they don't take into account for. And we have to tell them that they have to go inside and cool off and take a break and things like that. So if any person, citizen or an officer, starts having symptoms of heat exhaustion, specifically heat stroke, then that's a medical emergency that they need to call for the fire department or visit your local, emergency or urgent care to get treatment for that.
So what are some of the creative things that officers are doing out on the street to stay cool? I remember we used to put the ice pack from your lunch down into your vest and maybe, kind of hold your sleeve up to the air conditioning. What kind of things have you seen officers do to try to stay cool?
So I've seen and they made it commercially for a while, where they had a hose that hooked to your air conditioned vent that you'd slide down your vest to try to keep cool air. The nice thing is, and it's been this way for a while, is that we have different uniform options now to be able to have an external vest, so you can take that off and when it's safe to do so, and just get that weight and the heat off of you to try to kind of cool off a little bit as well.
And then I know you guys, it's safety units been out at some of these larger events and they pass out sunscreen. How important is that? Because I was never a guy that did the long sleeves. I was never. It was weird to me when guys, but they would be like, oh, I'm cooler. I don't understand that, to be frank with you. But if either of you are those guys, I'm not judging. But sunscreen, how important is that for someone like me that would be out there short sleeves constantly?
So for all of us, the best option is obviously to wear long sleeves, because anytime you have a barrier between the sun's rays, then that's going to protect you more than a chemical barrier, which is what most sunscreens are. But we are called the Valley of the Sun for a reason, right? 360 plus days of sunshine a year, and it wears on all of our skin, and can cause skin cancer and all those things. So you want to try to protect yourself the best you can, trying to keep that sun off you, get in the shade when you can. Unfortunately, the officers don't have those options a lot of times. So having sunscreen available to protect your skin, and then if you are that guy, wear your long sleeves and stay cool that way as well.
What about our motor officers?
Yeah, those guys are a different breed. They're out on bikes in the middle of the summer, driving around, trying to keep people safe on the roadways. Those guys, most of them, you will see wearing long sleeves because they're trying to keep the sun off them as best they can. But you'll also see them taking breaks a lot of the times because they need to get off the bike because of the heat that's radiating from the asphalt and the concrete that's out there. So they're probably one of the ones that are dealing with it the most. Unfortunately, they don't get to go get in a nice Tahoe or Impala or whatever vehicle we're driving these days that has an AC that's running, and be able to deal with it that way.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Sergeant Dave Jordan, for joining us on the show, talking about heat and getting prepared for it. Our media partners are going to be doing a media heat day, and City of Phoenix is going to come out and talk about all the services that are available and some of the tips and tricks, because we got monsoon season coming up. We're going to have to address that as well. But I wanted to thank you, and next time you're out there, you might see a special vehicle that you may not have seen before. It says Phoenix Police on the side of it. Chances are it's connected to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank my co-host, PIO Sgt. Rob Scherer, for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank the crew for producing. And remember, you can help fight crime in your community by sending tips to Silent Witness. Visit silentwitness.org or call 480-WITNESS. Visit us on all social media platforms, and we're hiring. Go to joinphxpd.com and look for job opportunities with us. And until next time, just remember, we're all in this together.